The all-new Audi Q5, the new generation, is today on Autogefühl, your number one resource for in-depth car reviews and your number one community to discuss cars with Thomas. Welcome also to Mexico and greetings to our Mexican viewers, because we're reviewing this car here exactly where it is also built. Well, not quite exactly. We're telling you later more about the production process. Here we're going to focus on the exterior changes, the new interior and of course the driving experience. For example, also with the new air suspension. Let's now go with Autogefühl in full HD, full screen and full length. Some basic facts about the production, because so far the Q5 was built in Germany, in Ingolstadt at the main plant. But now there's been 1 billion euros of investment for the new plant in Mexico, in the federal state of Puebla. That's not where we are here today, because we are around Baja California. Puebla is in the mainland of Mexico, but at least it's the same country. And why are they doing that? Yeah, it's business, and the main thing is it's not about what the workers earn, it's more about what the corporation has to invest for the working hour, and that's in Mexico around $8 per hour for an automotive worker. And in Germany, that's about $60 an hour. That is, of course, if you think about 4,200 workers in the Mexican plant, that were a lot of $1 million per month of saving. And you can really argue about that. I am very certain that the level of quality will remain the same also when the car is built in Mexico. They're going sure about that. But also some of you have raised some questions. If they're saving so much money with it, why doesn't the customer profit from that? What a beautiful scenery at the coast now of Baja California, and that fits to the Navarra blue of this car. The new Q5 features this huge single frame Audi grille, more accentuated than before. Here it's the S-line trim level as well, and what I especially like, you keep the Audi 3D logo, although you have the sensors for the adaptive cruise control, and they are now hidden here. You know, see, this is covered here on the other side as well. And this is a good solution that you don't lose the 3D logo, which we see quite frequently recently. Also, there's a new LED signature in the headlights, here again in the highest trim level with the Matrix LED. It looks a little bit sharper than before. So overall, if you take a look at the vehicle, it doesn't look so much changed, but it has more changed underneath. So it's really a completely new car. And from the front, you could mistake it for a small Q7. 4.66 m or 15'3" is the total length of this vehicle. It hasn't changed much, just grown in all dimensions, maybe 1-2 centimeters, so basically remained the same. It is still a compact SUV, but it is one of the biggest compact SUVs, for example, alongside the Skoda Kodiaq at 4.70 m. What can we see in the details here? For example, now here the S-Line logo, that proves we have at least already the S-Line exterior. And I can promise you we will also see the S-Line interior. If we take a close look at the rims, they start with 17-inch. That will look too small. Then 18, 19 in the S-Line. Those ones are 20-inch rims, optional, and the maximum would be 21. But there you might lose comfort, so my tip for today would be 18 or 19. That already looks good and still offers you a lot of comfort. More to the comfort soon with the air suspension, by the way. If we take a further look at the side profile, it's a very conservative design, but very elegant, especially in this color. The dropping line, design dropping line over the door handles there, especially in this great sunlight here, we can see the playing of light and shadow. And it goes all the way until the rear, and steep window lines, and that conservative layout promises a lot of space on the inside. You can see we're at the beach. Looks great still when it's a little bit sandy. This is the new rear. And how can you differentiate Q5 and Q7? Well, this part here is more accentuated, this drop part. And then you got the new tail lights, which have this 3D effect that really steps inside, also with LED technology. Here you can also see that's the TFSI, more to the engines very soon. Again here, this accounts for the whole setup of the car. They're not playing too much with the exterior design. But the very interesting thing was, from the Paris Motor Show, this was still one of the vehicles that had the most views from our videos. So you don't always have to go for a revolution on the exterior because, of course, you want to keep the existing customers. And I love those Mexican number plates. Really something for a change, and yellow color of sunshine. And I'm not sure if we can talk about fake exhaust, because are they really pretending to be exhausts here? Well, it's a design element, but what is for sure, for the TFSI, the 2-liter petrol engine we're driving, is one exhaust pipe right down here, and also for the diesel, same position but just with 2 pipes. And what's also important to know, together with this new platform, the MLB platform for the bigger models in the Volkswagen Corporation, so also where the Q5 sits on, so for example also the A4 or the A5 or even the Q7, they are all some kind of siblings. And together with this platform, the new platform, the car has lost about 90 kilograms of weight. But as I already said, it has not lost its price. At the moment it starts, taking German reference prices, at about 45,000 euros with a 2-liter TFSI with 252 horsepower. Later on there will also be entry petrol engines, so a 2-liter TFSI with less horsepower, and also there will be a diesel, the smallest diesel, 2-liter TDI, just with front-wheel drive, and that one will then start at about 37,000 euros. And what about those engines? Let's take a look at them. This one here is, as I said, the 2-liter TFSI, in this case 252 horsepower, so a really strong one. Also in combination with the Quattro all-wheel drive. And what is interesting here, that here the new Quattro Ultra all-wheel drive is being set in, and that means it comes a little bit close to the smaller models where we have this front plus rear concept. It's not really the same concept, but it has the same effect for the customer. That means here you will predominantly have front-wheel drive, sometimes to save some fuel. That is basically a good thought. With other engines, for example with a 3-liter TDI with 286 horsepower, there you still have the more standard Quattro all-wheel drive, where we have rather a permanent all-wheel drive, not with such a front-wheel bias. But this one here is also able to adapt to all of the situations. That means when you got slippery ground in the front, you will also have massive torque distribution to the rear, and also if you really hammer the throttle. I've just mentioned it, 3-liter TDI available with a lot of horsepower, later also with 218 horsepower then in the Ultra variant to save some more fuel. And then later on also 2-liter TFSI or 2-liter TDIs in regions about 150 and 190 horsepower. And we can also expect the sport models. For the European market it will again be an SQ5 in a diesel form. The 3-liter diesel then with approximately 320-330 horsepower. And our guys in the US, they will get the SQ5 in a petrol form, similarly as we know from our recently presented S5. This will then be the 3-liter V6 engine, turbo petrol. And again, what is missing? Yeah, transmissions. You start with the lowest trim level engines with a manual drive, and then you can either get the dual clutch transmissions for the most engines. Only the 3-liter TDI with a lot of horsepower, with the 286 horsepower, still use a converter automatic gearbox called Tiptronic. The same will account for the V6 petrol engine. Now it gets really complicated because the 3-liter TDI in the lower horsepower spec then gets the dual clutch transmission. So you can remember, when you have a lot of torque, then they say, okay, better put a converter gearbox, less torque, dual clutch transmission is fine. But both, of course, have very good performance. Let's get inside. First of all, the door handles, they flip a little bit upwards. Very interesting concept. And you have to use a lot of force to close the doors because everything is so well insulated that you see it right here. A soft close would have been good, but due to the good insulation, you also have a quiet atmosphere inside. Here's the manual seat setup with putting it manual upper or lower, then the lumbar support electronically. It's also available in the fully electric setup. Here it would be manual also to push the seat forward or backward. Here this is just for the front part to put it higher or lower, and the whole seat change would be right there. And you can also lengthen or shorten the seating area manually. Storage spaces here are also very wide in the entry, so you can also fit bigger bottles right there. And another proof of the sound insulation, let's lower the windows and stop them halfway. And here you can see it very well, very thick and 2 layers with space inside. You get this with the optional acoustic package. What do we have here? There's a special button, you can click it and also turn it, and that's for the head-up display, a practical solution to have it right here. There it is, we can see it, and also how we can adjust it, so you can adjust the height of the display. You can even change the rotation, but that makes no sense to me, and you can also fully deactivate it. The seating position, basically high, as we know it from a compact SUV, and especially the new Q5 gives you a feeling that you're always sitting in a full-size SUV, although to a full-size SUV there's about 30-40 centimeters missing. So overall, a sovereign feeling due to this very good overview, to the high seating position, and of course also due to the great build quality. You can see it here, the inside of the doors, this is brushed aluminum now, also here alongside right there. Clean setup, a horizontal setup of the whole interior, also not so much hard plastic is used, even here a little bit soft surface, you can touch that, although it's not too soft, but it also has to be still durable. The steering wheel can be adjusted very widely, look at that, to all of the ways. And in this case, an S-line steering wheel is a little bit smaller, sportier, also has the flat bottom. I've tested the other normal steering wheel earlier, it's a little bit bigger, doesn't feel that sporty, but of course also does the job. An S-line interior package, as we have here right now, of course is always optionally and costs a lot of money, but then you also got those sporty elements here in the interior. Lower middle console. The key here fits pretty well in there. It's also slim. And here the volume control, of course with the typical Audi metal knurling around the buttons. Everything, even here for the 12-volt power supply, great quality. Then the automatic shifting lever, you can also just rest your hand on there, P, and you just go into the driving mode like this or reverse like this. The infotainment screen is all controlled right here, and Audi sound laboratory proof, well, sandproof as well, especially on our shooting today. And then there are also some hotkeys right here for media, radio, GPS or telephone. And there's this new touchpad optionally available. Therefore, this button is also not that big. So in other cars, for example in the A5, this button here is bigger and has a touchpad on the top optionally. Here we got a separate touchpad. And here we can, for example, write an A for the address typing in with the GPS. Also go right or left in the menu, go back in the menu, or go to the main menu overall, and have also some hotkeys function 1, 2, 8. Maybe it would have been nice if we had a 9 and the 0 there, then we could also have used it for dialing a telephone number. Storage spaces below the armrest. First of all, build quality check. There's nothing I can shake, and you can adjust the height of this middle armrest like this. Then below here, first of all, for putting the smartphone, if it's suitable here for this inductive charging, mine is not. But then you can also slide it and have adaptive beverage holders in here. The other side for 2 USB supplies and the aux port. And there's reasonable space here, really, in the middle console. And if it's sandy like today, whereas we're on the beach, we can also remove this rubber here, then get rid of the dust. More storage space here in the front part. Could also be for your mobile phone, for example. Then the glove box slides down smoothly, reasonable space inside, coin holder, pen holder, and it can also be cooled, and this is the only part which is a little bit weird from the build quality. You can maybe also hear that, to shut down the cooling, but I mean just always leave it open, then it will be fine. My favorite interior part is playing the AC DJ, like this here, with the visualization in the middle, red and blue, right and left side, and also the famous clicking sound. And also here with those capacitive buttons where you have this visualization right there, and then if you click on it, then something happens on the lower or the higher part. Seat heating would be right here, 3 levels, and overall again one of the most thought through element in this interior. The whole cockpit overview is really defined, but just a few lines, a very clean setup. And we just have some accentuations, for example with the design line at the middle part of the dashboard and this chrome line right here, for example. You can also get open cell matte wood here if you're not going for a sporty direction but more for elegant version. Also piano lacquer is available right here, or then for example for a sports version later also carbon fiber. The steering wheel, especially in the middle part, reflects the design from the exterior with this single frame grille on the steering wheel with a 3D Audi logo. That's again another emotional element. Virtual instruments, soon more details to that. They are optionally, you can also just get analog instruments in the basis version. You cannot retract this infotainment screen. 8.3 inch is the biggest one that is available. You can also get lower trims, but unfortunately it's not possible anymore to retract it. The explanation for that was Audi says they made some surveys and the customers obviously did not use the function, and so they said it's quite expensive to do those small motors in there, so we better save the cost there. Not sure. Did you use it on your Audi? If you have a retractable display, put it in the comments and then we can discuss it. And now the details to the infotainment screen. This is the main menu right there. And you can see this is new, the Audi smartphone interface. If I put the cable in now, I can access Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. We've shown you that a couple of times. You can also still connect your telephone via Bluetooth, that is still possible. And what is interesting for the drive select, we'll talk about the different modes later on when we drive the car. And here also, due to the air suspension and the quattro all-wheel drive, all-road and lift off-road is available. Again, more details to that later. Back to the main menu. The sound system is the optionally available Bang & Olufsen sound system with a good 3D sound, definitely. Not as powerful as in the Q7, but for a compact SUV, really good choice if you love music. Let's take a look at the map, and you can also see where we are here today. Greetings again to our Mexican viewers. And you see the reaction times are really good. The system is fast, offers a good overview. You do not necessarily need the satellite view, which is available, but for navigating, I think this more simplistic view is really better. And you can also get them in the digital instruments in front of the driver. Virtual cockpit, 12.3 inch. And you can get it, you do not have to get it. And you see here 9.2 liters, also for the turbo petrol engine, is possible if you just ride the highway. You can get different information in here. You can always change the view, that RPM meter and speedometer is bigger or smaller. In the middle one you can also get the GPS, and then if you change the view you can have the huge GPS in the middle part. Also zoom in it with the controls at the steering wheel, so pretty easy setup. And again, also to change the view, I also do that with the steering wheel, so the driver is really fully in control and wouldn't really need the middle screen. That's a reason why in the Audi TT only this one is available and you do not get a middle screen. But here, of course, also for the co-driver, it would be better to have the middle screen as well. And on the outside, all the water temperature, and on the right side for the fuel status. And now let's switch to the rear. And we have a little bit more space in the rear compared to the predecessor generation. You can see also the rear seats are a little bit spared out. And of course, just for the information, at least in Germany, everything starts with a cloth surface, and it depends on the market which seat materials are being offered. Here the optional S seats, and they're not that comfortable on the long-term run because they're quite hard on the surface. Package-wise, I'm 1.86 m or 6'1", still enough space for the knees, and also headroom-wise, that's perfectly fine. If you pick a panoramic roof, that will decrease a little bit. Upright seating position here also in the rear, very comfortable. And you can also change the benches here now, 2/3, 1/3 split. I can also show you that in the front. That's the maximum in the front to have more trunk space. That is possible. And you can also flip the seats quite easily in a manual way from here. And then you can also have beverage holders right there. That is possible. And here you can not only have a 1/3, 2/3 split, but also a ski hatch split. For example, putting this down here and then the other one up again. A little bit of workout again. So like this. And there are also 2 steps available. That means I can either fit it like this, or like this, or like this, or yeah, that's the maximum. So you can vary a little bit in the leaning angle. And if you have checked the option for the 3-zone AC, you can also have a separate climate control for the rear passengers. And furthermore, always a 12-volt power supply to charge phones. Well, a direct USB port would have been clever here, I think. Let's check the loading area. Electric hatch is optionally available. You can also pick a manual one, which is also clever because if you want to close it right here and you have something that is very close in the proximity, you can gently close it. The electric hatch always applies a stronger force. They took care about rails on the side for the cover. That's a clean solution. There we go with the first setup. What is always interesting to see is that the cover here is from high class quality. Also here the cover. Then, especially with the air suspension, we can lower the car for a lower loading sill then. That's a good comfort feature, definitely. Wow, it goes way down. Wow, that's really low. Interesting. And you can also flip the seats from here like this, and also at the other side. And well, sometimes they don't flip totally. Then you need to help it a little bit, go around the car and then fix them like this and like this. And then we have the even loading setup. Good opportunities. You can also release the cover here quite easily. You just press it. Here we go. So this is the maximum setup we have here. As you've seen, you also get additional equipment like this net. You can secure stuff. That would be a clever solution for the SQ5 especially. You can also easily remove it and take a look underneath the cover. There we have this inflatable tire, the Space Master. And so it saves space, but if you inflate it, it will look like a normal tire. Thanks for this remark recently. And basically, a clever solution. And the child safety test. And I think it's not sensitive enough. You need really to hold very strong against it. And for children, this might not work. So they have to work on that, I think. Then, if you have the ignition off, close the car, have the key in your hand or maybe in a pocket. Option, you can also get this foot sensor. And for me, it's not always working 100%. There are always people in the comments saying, oh, I always do it like this and it always works, but yeah, there it is. So the best way is obviously to wipe underneath the car. That's the best solution, but still then not a 100% success ratio. So let's start driving the all new generation of the Audi Q5, and in my favorite terrain, you know, I'm also a two-wheel drive off-road racer, and here bumpy road, some sand on top. That's where the new air suspension comes into effect, and I love it. You see it, maybe the vehicle is sliding just a little bit, but still remaining a very good control over the car, and I love it. The vehicle is just sliding. You can have a lot of fun. And due to the new air suspension, it remains very comfortable even in this off-road ride. Just keeping the vehicle in the auto mode at the moment. If the road would maybe have some deeper bumps or so, then I could also go to the off-road mode in the Audi Drive Select. That raises the car then just a little bit. I can also see it here on the right side of the screen. And lift off-road would be even higher. And that's possible. I'm going like this at the moment, very slowly. In the all drive or the all-road mode, all-road or off-road mode, the other difference is that we can also have more torque at the rear wheels. Or also when I'm accelerating a little bit harder here now, then we also got more torque distribution to the rear, because the vehicle detects that when accelerating, the vehicle is leaning a little bit to the rear, and then says, okay, it makes more sense to give a little bit more torque or power to the rear wheels. That's how the system works. And I've explained just a little bit this new Quattro Ultra system. When I'm just rolling, it's really more front wheel drive predominant. That's not necessarily a bad thing, so you can save fuel by that. And when you really hammer the throttle, as I said, more torque is also distributed to the rear wheels. Again, the system is not the same as in the smaller MQB platform cars, but for the customer it sometimes has a similar effect. And I've driven the diesel earlier with 286 horsepower. That one still had the classic Quattro all-wheel drive. And do you really feel a big difference when driving? Really hard to say. So you shouldn't say sacrilege, a new all-wheel drive with less power on the rear wheels. No, it's really still remaining very adaptive depending on the situation. You can be certain of that. Though I've told you I've driven the 3-liter diesel earlier, and so I can also compare it here to this very 2-liter TFSI with 258 horsepower. The diesel has about 620 Newton meters of torque. The petrol engine is always less in Newton meters, and I do feel that, especially when we are on the motorway, accelerating hard on the motorway, then the diesel does have more power. However, this one here is a little bit more silent and it feels a little bit lighter. It is also a little bit lighter, but there's some nuances, just so you can easily go with both engines. And even the diesel is so silent, the sound insulation towards the engine and also to the outside is really superb. So you can be certain of that. There will be different suspensions available. Standard one, then also adaptive suspension in a more sporty or in a more comfy way. They're both good. I've tested them in the all-new Audi A4. And then this optional adaptive air suspension, yeah, it's pretty expensive. It does make sense when you want to go off-road with the car, because you then can put the car higher. Other than that, if you buy it as a leasing car, no problem. But if you own the car for maybe 10 years, not because it would not be durable, but at some point suspension parts have to be replaced, same with tires and other stuff. And then of course an air suspension gets really expensive. So my tip would be, if you buy a car for 10 years or more, consider no air suspension. If you go more for a leasing car, very well with the air suspension here. You're feeling like you're flying on the road, but at the same time we have enough support to the sides, so it's not that the car would be too wobbly or something like that. Here also I'm in some faster corners. The car feels relatively stable, although we have the air suspension, so I think they've found a rather sporty setup. It's not an SQ5 we're riding here, but from the agility aspect, it almost feels like the old SQ5, and that's another key aspect of this vehicle. is that by tuning the suspension, sound insulation, the engines, a little bit more power, drive sportier and more comfortable at the same time. So that's what they've basically achieved with this new vehicle if you compare it to the old one. The old Q5 is still a very good car, no doubt about that, but this one here has been refined in all of the different small aspects, that's for sure. The seating position is upright and definitely also comfortable on longer term runs, and we do of course expect that from a compact SUV. It already feels big, so although it's agile, you feel that you are in a grown-up SUV. You know, there are some smaller SUVs where you sometimes think, oh, that's really a small car, but here you feel it's a grown-up. Oh wow, some Humvees right there from the Mexican military, waiting a little bit in the shade. And it's some serious bumps, or as our friends in the Netherlands call them, drempels, here in the Mexican roads. You have to be careful of that, but that's also another good aspect of the new air suspension. You can very well roll over them. You might also noticed already I'm in the auto mode, and I've got the active info display, as Volkswagen calls it out here, virtual cockpit it's called at Audi. I've mounted that one here, optionally available for the new Q5, and I'm seeing the GPS at the moment just in the middle screen. That's enough, and I can also put it a little bit bigger. That would also work just fine. So you get a lot of different possibilities. And I'm also looking at the new head-up display, which is available here. It's very easy to control. Even while driving, you can put it a little bit higher or lower depending on your seating position. So overall, that's also a good impression. I think the one we see from Mercedes or BMW a little bit crisper in the resolution for the head-up display. The other displays, I feel they are better with Audi. So always very interesting small remarks. Those A-pillars here, if you look around, are also not too big, so they don't block your view. And overall, the view to the sides is really great. And that is also one of the key elements for me to this car, because a lot of the new SUVs, they are really roundish and focus so much on design on the exterior that you sometimes lose the feeling for the interior. And here, due to the steep windows, you have good round view, but of course you can also get those camera assistant. Let's drive sporty here now, going from the auto to the dynamic mode. That means the gears go faster down, but later up, more throttle input. Steering wheel is a little bit stiffened, but you cannot really feel that much. It's more about throttle input combination with the S-tronic, the dual clutch transmission, that makes the most difference. And the engine can hardly be heard. That will be the case rather for the SQ5. But the air suspension, as it's an adaptive one, also gets stiffened up a little bit. I have more contact to the road. It's not getting uncomfortable, but I have a little bit more feeling for what I do with the car. And so the good thing is here, sometimes you have to pick between a very comfortable SUV or maybe a mid-size sedan that is fun to drive. And here they've really managed to do both. So you cannot compare it to a sport version of a mid-size sedan, of course. And yeah, for example, here in the corners now, as the car's a little bit higher, you feel still pushing with the weight, although it has lost 90 kilograms of weight. Still heavy car. It's pushing to you a little bit to the corners, but you remain in good control, especially here in combination with the S-line steering wheel. The other one, I felt it was a little bit bigger. I've driven the diesel, so you can have fun still here in the corners. The seat also offer you enough side support. Both engines I've driven today are definitely powerful enough for this vehicle. They are both among the top variants. It always depends on if you want to go with this consumption, of course. If you think about the consumption for petrol engine here, 2 liter with 252 horsepower, that will surely be about 10 liters. I can also check it here right now. What's the status at the moment? Yes, 10.2 liters so far, and with the diesel I have scored about 8 liters. So those 2 liters difference, that's the diesel all about. The question is that worth it? Yeah, the diesel is also the more powerful engine, so that might be important for you if you are having a trailer just in the rear. That might be the crucial factor. Other than that, you have to drive really a lot of kilometers per year that the diesel really pays off in comparison to the petrol engine. It's more about really how much do you hammer the throttle, how much the car consumes. And what can you do to reduce that? I mean, you've also experienced the throttle input when I'm in the dynamic mode. As soon as I go in the throttle, direct response, and I do not experience any big turbo lag. Also, you can use the shifting pedals here to go back manually. Immediate response, so no turbo lag at all. But you can also go in the other direction, hold the pedal by the way to go to the automatic mode again, or the central driving shifter, put it back to go from S to D mode again. Let's go to efficiency in the Audi Drive Select, and if we then lift the throttle, the car is rolling, also called coasting or sailing, and that means there's no resistance from the engine brake, and the car is rolling as long as possible, just very slowly decreasing the speed now. Now it's holding the speed as we're going a little bit downhill. That will help you to save some fuel. Of course, if you go downhill for a longer time, then it might make sense to have an engine brake. Maybe even go to the dynamic mode or just go to the sport mode here with a central automatic shifting lever, that you don't have to hammer the brakes all the time. And at a later stage we'll also have the plug-in hybrid available in combination with the 2-liter petrol engine. That will then give us also a possibility to recuperate when we're going downhill. So I'm going back to the dynamic mode because I want to show you some acceleration. There are some Mexican trucks in front of us. So what we're going to do now is about 90 kilometers an hour, and let's hammer it. 110, 120. Yeah, you see, that's the diesel is faster, definitely. The 3-liter diesel, but this one here, sufficient power. That was in the dynamic mode, and so you also realize this direct response. And also look at how I have to turn the steering wheel. It's really not that much, so I love this direct steering that Audi is offering, the progressive steering. So get the immediate response, and also not only for sporty driving, when you drive in your everyday life, you have an easy handling because you don't have to steer that much. So I think they have figured out that very well here. Also when I'm going in the slalom, you see the direct command, and that's of course good for an SUV. So we've covered a lot of different aspects here in riding the car. What is missing? First of all, the safety systems. ACC is built in here. I've shown you the sensors earlier. Means I have to let go of the throttle, just can relax basically, and the distance to the car in front of me is kept. It is also available with a traffic assistant, that the car starts from 0. It always breaks down to 0, reduce the speed to 0. That works pretty well. Also in the highest trim there's this predictive assistant available that will, for example, decrease the speed in a roundabout, even though you have not put in the destination in the GPS. It still works. So also traffic signs are recognized in the highest trim. So the car combines camera input and GPS input. That's a very interesting system, and so far the best one we've seen on the market in this case. Also here it works pretty well on US or Mexican highways. Sometimes you cannot drive that fast. Just set the ACC and relax, steer a bit, and the car is pretty much driving autonomously. Besides, you still have to steer. And here also features in the new Q5. The GPS can learn from your everyday commuting. For example, if you set the GPS and then drive the one or other way, always the same time, because that's better with the traffic lights, or I know a secret trail right there, then the GPS will remember that and say, oh, maybe this guy is a little bit more clever than my GPS data I have officially. Let's adapt the route to his knowledge, or her knowledge, of course. So that might be a very interesting factor. It's all about this car. The last point for driving today, if we compare it to the other vehicles we have on the market, the Porsche Macan or Macan in the original Indonesian pronunciation, Jaguar F-Pace, the Mercedes GLC. If you leave the official premium segment, but which is still basically premium, what about the Volkswagen Tiguan, for example? How is the new Q5 performing? Overall, it's performing very well. I can tell you so far. The Porsche Macan is a bit more in the sporty direction. Also, the BMW X4 we've recently driven in the M40i version. I think the BMW X4 and the Porsche Macan were the sportiest in this case. The GLC and the Q5 are the most comfortable. I felt that the package here is very good. We have in the space, and the assistance systems and all of the electronic lineup, that was also very convincing here with the Audi. And I have the impression that the Audi leads it in the sound insulation, so you have the calmest drive here. That's to give you some of the difference. Of course, all of those I've mentioned are really very good compact SUVs. That's no doubt. And soon we'll also ride the GLC in the AMG version 43. So we're always keeping you updated with the latest developments here in the compact SUV segment, which is becoming more and more important. I hope you enjoyed the Mexican ride with us here today. So, gravel road right there, and here again the air suspension will help us to have a soft ride at the same time. The stones are getting bigger now. Still speeds where I just leave it with the hill descent control. It's just when they're really steep downhills. Oh, a little bit of water here. Go through there. I love that. Going through water. It's really a lot of fun to drive this car off-road because of the sporty characteristics I've explained to you earlier. And I have also set the drive select meanwhile to all road to have a little bit more ground clearance thanks to the air suspension. And also some more torque at the rear wheels. Here at the moment, at 40, I cannot go to the lift off-road mode. If I would go a little bit slowly, and then let's see when it sets in. About 20. Now I can also go to lift off-road. Means more ground clearance, a little bit less comfort, of course, because the way the suspension could work is reduced. And if I accelerate a little bit faster, now again at the 39, 40, then lift or off-road gets deactivated and we remain in the normal all-road mode. You also hear it on camera, it's getting a little bit shaky here. This loose gravel. My favorite stuff is here again when I'm in the corner here and the car is drifting just a little bit to the outside. It's not as slidey as we have, for example, on our ice lake tests we do once a year in February. It's still a lot of fun to drive off-road here. And some dust tray will leave behind us. It's getting really rocky. Tires have to work a lot. Whoa. So something the suspension cannot even out, but for an off-road ride it still remains very comfortable. I think that's the main aspect here, and also the very good visibility helps us now here, especially to the front, because the front hood is high so I can very well see what's ahead of me, and for example try to avoid very big rocks that don't damage the tires that much. Of course, those 20-inch rims we have mounted are not the best for off-road riding here, also can easily damage them. With the all-new Q5, yet again we had a great effort today, just exclusively for you. And you know, at Autogefühl you get the earliest and the most extensive insight in all of the new cars on the market. So what about in the conclusion of the all-new Audi Q5? First of all, it definitely hasn't been a revolution, neither on the exterior nor on the interior. And also technology-wise, we don't see so much new stuff. Well, but still, everything has been built up from scratch again. And we do realize that especially when driving the car. So the exterior, rather conservative, but for the most customer groups, that's, I think, rather good. And you also don't attract so much attention. It's more an elegant profile. Then on the interior, a high build quality, as we know from Audi, stepped up the game even more in the infotainment system. Hardly anything to moan about, just we need more animal skin-free alternatives in the higher trim levels. Also the package is good, we have a lot of space on the inside. This has been even improved. Driving sportier and more comfortable at the same time, especially now as you also have the optional air suspension available. That will cost the money, of course, but if you want the comfort, this is a new option you can go for. So I'm pretty certain that the sales success will continue. About 150,000 vehicles will be built in the new plant, and overall sales figures will be about 200,000 Q5 per year. The ones that are missing there are built in separate plants, for example, for the Chinese market. And in Germany, 20,000 Q5 are sold each year, just for information. So overall, the vehicle has been refined in every kind of aspect, and what I'm looking forward to is first of all the new plug-in hybrid variant that will probably come by the end of 2018. It's a little bit late, but then they will combine the 2-liter TFSI also with electric drive and probably again 50 or 60 kilometers of pure electric range. That's very important, for example, as for Chinese regulations, for some regulations you have there inside the cities. And I'm also looking forward to your comments on the all-new Audi Q5 in exterior, interior and the driving specifications. Thank you very much for tuning into Autogefühl. Tune in next time with Thomas or one of my colleagues and keep supporting us. Thanks.